I have one question, by the way. So, what, if you don't mind, how would that car be connected to your previous life, so to say? Like, what's
Because
it?
I got it when we were together, and she paid for it.
Okay.
Well, in the divorce, she paid for it. I actually, when I was playing golf, a sponsor bought it. But I, I've cleared out pictures, everything from
Yeah.
her. But that car had significance in the relationship, and I had completely forgotten about that. And it's the last piece of, it's like everything else is gone, but that, you know, um,
Mhm.
it's time for someone else to sit next to me, not her. You know?
Hmm.
So, um,
The
you know,
the last emotional connected item, I guess.
yeah,
Person.
yeah. At least that I'm aware of. You know me. There might be something else that I'm not aware of, but um, that's sure the way it seems, and it's just time. It's time for new memories.
I hear you.
You know, so
Oh, interesting, man. I was just chatting with one of my buddies a couple days ago about how quickly many things in life can change. And you think like sometimes when you're in the period of slow, steady stillness, it can feel like life has been put to a pause. And then all of a sudden, getting out of that can be like everything's changing, not once, but many times. The people around you, the place you work at, the people you work with, your financial situation, your clothing, your living space, all the things. And that's what I've gone through recently, and that's what he's going through now. And it's so interesting because what we were pointing at is that when you go into this journey, it's like you can't really anticipate what is and know exactly what's going to change into what you
yeah,
think, right? But then, right, so many of the wonderful things, like for example, I did not want to move out of my mother's house when I went into this sabbatical mode and lived with my mother and brother recently. Like I went into a catharsis with
yeah,
that. However, now that I've been here now for in my new apartment, and I do have roommates, I did so strategically because I was like, you know what? I want to really improve my financial situation in a different way. I'm going to go ahead and do roommates. I'm going to do it in a place where it's low cost, still nice. And my number one, my financial situation improved dramatically. My living space is beautiful. It's clean. It's got great people. It's peaceful. All the things I need.
yeah,
And now I've got to the point where I was even sharing with them. I was like, man, I really love my life here.
yeah,
Like, I like it so much better. But I couldn't see that back then. Not wanting to get out of it.
yeah.
Sometimes you
It's
think
fine.
I'm good, right?
Yeah, it's over the last 3 weeks. Um, yeah, it's just been weird. It's reminding me of when I wrote the first book and everything that happened, after the suicide stuff, and everything came to me that spawned the business and the book, the first book, and everything. It's very spiritual how all these things are showing up, but different.
Right.
Back then, it was kind of enlightenment of understanding things. I mean, there's an element of that, but everywhere I go, I'm just getting every TV show I pick. Even Mike, when I called in we talked last week, he got this random text from a friend of his that was really speaking to me. It's like everywhere I turn, there are all these messages that, you know, the stuckness in my life is changing. I know this book, like it's it's really good, and it's gonna piss off a lot of people, but it's also going to help a lot of people. And it goes places, you know, I mean, I just realized I've developed all of these processes that nobody's taught. It's like you know, emotional intelligence, great process, but it's so limited. It's so introductory. And the emotional mastery method I put together just goes way beyond it. And, you know, so, you know, and there are many other things. And and there's so many topics in this book that are interesting to people, where my first one, you know, wasn't. It's just, you know, it's not a problem. It's just, you know, about this. But this one, it's like, you know, I've sent you that list of 50 some things people get from it. Just keeps growing. I think, you know, it's going to be 70 to 90. And they're all topics that are like, whoa. And every person I show the cover of the book, they're like, wow, that's interesting. I want to read that. I just think that things can explode. Now, whether it explodes in a way where everyone loves it or hates it, I don't know.
I think both would be a good thing, to be honest. Any kind of
Yeah, I'm
explosion.
sure I mean, that's usually what makes a great book or a great thing is that it both pleases and pisses off. And I think it'll do both, you know? Yeah, it's just, there's a certainty of outcome. Now, I don't know exactly, like you said, I don't know exactly what that outcome looks like. I'm not trying to figure it out. I'm not trying to assume. I just, you know, have a certainty of, you know, there's a lot of change coming my way. And I think, you know, we talked about that in the past, you know, kind of fear of success, and wasn't really ready for my ideas to be known. Um, you know, I hated talking about it because it scared everybody, right? Remember that? I was always trying to find a way not to talk about it because, and instead this time I'm just going, screw it, I'm talking about it. And I also think I'm at a place where the criticism I can handle. You know, I'm ready to step into what I was always there and had always created, but just was too afraid of owning it. And I think I'm ready for it. I think, you know, there's both. Really, what I'm ready for is the light. I kind of realized it last night. Is I've been ready for the darkness. You know, a lot of my stuff is about here's how you handle the darkness. It's time for me to live in the light and then teach about how to live in the light. And you know, it feels like that's what's coming my way is you know, because like I talked about, my mom could see darkness, my dad could see greatness, you know, so my mom was dark, my dad was light, and I got both. And I've been very good at diagnosing and helping people through the dark, and seeing the light in them, but teaching the light is something different. And you know, I've lived and worked through the dark. I think it's time for me to live and work through the light. You know, that's the next phase for me. I mean, those are my assumptions. Yeah.
What's your definition of the light and the dark when it comes to what we're talking about here?
Well, I think that has a lot to do with societal definitions. The light would be success, you know, money, attention, you know, accomplishment of goals and dreams and things like that, you know, because that's what everyone's like, God, if I could just, you know, we all spend life going, I want this, I want this, I want this, right? Yeah. And then most people get it and they're miserable because they haven't reconciled the dark. They thought the light would cover the dark, but they never dealt with the dark. And so the light doesn't matter. You know, it just exposes how much darkness there is, you know, and so there's this societal picture of, you know, what light is. To me, it's something different. To me, it's being at peace regardless of anything. But there is a skill to living in society's definition of the light. Most people don't do it very well. Most people do it with high levels of deception and get caught up in the rat race and fall into the, you know, all the traps that are involved in it. And, you know, how do you navigate that? That's not it. I've been watching documentaries for years, literally since 2014, on people who got into the light and destroyed themselves, really paying attention to what they did and didn't do, and their stories and what they learned about it. And I've never written about it or talked about it, but like, how do you navigate that? Like, think of these people who just overnight blow up. That, all the media, like, that's Jordan Peterson, it's just too big. Like, there isn't training for that in the world, right? Like, how do you navigate that? And, I think that so few of us get an opportunity like that, and everybody wants it. But I don't know that anyone really teaches how to deal with it. They really teach about what they did wrong and how they weren't prepared. But how do you try and do it right? Kind of like I teach about, here's how you do the dark right. Well, for me to teach about how to do the light right, I'd have to live it. At least to me, I like to teach from a lived experience versus a supposition. And so, I've been contemplating, like, should things blow up, would I take every opportunity? No. No. No, I think no would probably be the biggest word out of my mouth. Because the truth is, I don't really want to be in the limelight. I want the theories to be in the limelight. Like, I want that to be the discussion, not me. Well, how do you do that? Well, you kind of let the word, you debate it. You guys have shows about it. You critique it and share and take it to another level, or find things in it that I missed, whether good or bad. Like, that's more what I'd rather see, is everybody embrace it and take it to where they want to go, versus me being the face of it. I've never wanted to be the face of it. I've always wanted, that's why I created the movement. The idea of the greatness movement is, it's not the Kenny Weiss movement. It's these processes and ways to approach life that aren't about a person. They're about a societal ideal and way of living life that aren't tied to me. Okay, maybe I had some input, but they need to be bigger than me. I can't be the face of it. I mean, you may have to start, but that's never what I've wanted. So, then how do you do that? Well, I have to be responsible for that. How do I create that? Because a lot of people say they want to start movements, and then it ends up all about them. They get caught and do all these terrible things, and and all that stuff, because we're human and limited, and they go through that and realize the mistakes they made. And so it's like, how can I get ahead of it? Is there a way to get ahead of it? I don't even know. I don't know if that would happen, if I'm destined for something like that, but should it happen? That's what I mean, of how do you navigate it differently than it's been navigated? Is there a lesson in that can be taught too? I don't know. I haven't lived it. So, I'm just grasping at straws because I haven't had that happen. So it's all an assumption on my part of what it might be like, or what might happen. So what would be your definition of light and dark? Or the difference, I guess, was your question.
Recently I have found myself saying, in relation to what you just explained, I love my life to the point of exactly how it is. I can actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
100% of it, not wanted to change drastically for me to be happy, quote unquote. And I think that's part of the light. It's how many things can we witness with our senses and our presence and appreciate and find joy in. It's very simple for me, in terms of the word joy. And I say that because it seems that we're living in a society where these messages that communicate that life is hard and people aren't to be trusted and it's a tough world and all these things, that they promote this reality of that living is so literally supposed to be a burden, right? That it's like, you know what, I've thought about it in this way. I'm like, like you look at animals, look at the animal kingdom, not the Disney one, but the real one, and witness anything from, all species to insects to even the plants, right? And look at the motion of life. These animals thinking the same way as we are, like life is so bad and so hard. And like, no, like they're just being, they're just there. Many of them going through their basic necessities, just like eating, right? And mating. But how wonderful to think about it, as human beings, we have such an advanced intelligence in developing ways to explore our senses and our interaction with the world and the things around us, and with so much depth, and with so much color, so many more colors in the rainbow.
I love that, because that's to me, the reason as humans we don't see that is we're stuck in the dark. Our pain, we think pain is a problem. Animals recognize it's just part of the journey. Like, and we don't, because to me, we're all stuck in that childlike state. And what do kids want? They want, it's December 5th, mom, 20 more days, 20 more sleeps till Christmas. I can't wait that long. And we're 40 years old and thinking the same thing. And we forget it takes us 18 years to be able to live on our own. And most times about 25. Like, we are an incredibly slow learning species. Yet we all want it immediately. Well, that's a childlike perspective. Well, the only way you can get out of that darkness and belief system and sense of, being, and isn't this enough? And isn't this part of the journey? And being okay with all of this is, to me, you have to bring the light into the dark. You have to recognize that your light comes from the dark. It is in the struggle. It is in that. Well, no one really teaches a process. They say the words around it. Well, how do you, and that's what I went to develop is here. So when I wrecked my car, instead of playing the victim and go, oh my God, my poor life, can you believe it? Like, I just come from, Barnes and Noble asked me to do some book signings. I'm pulling out of the parking lot. Oh, life is great. Boom. Then this woman does this to me and ruins my day. No, she didn't. She brought light to me. Like, look at what came from that. There's no darkness in it. But we don't teach that. We don't know that. So to me, there's light in everything. It's not just in the good, so like, that's why I was saying earlier, society goes, light's only up here. I'm trying to teach the opposite. Your light's here. And if you investigate this and become good at it, that's when this appears. Well, that process, to live in light without the trappings of society that destroy us, you need to learn how to execute the darkness first. Because the lessons in here, I'm assuming that's what I want to find out is, are the lessons I've taught in here and figured out in here, do they prepare you to live here without the self-destruction? Because you've learned about self-destruction, you've overcome it and created a process that keeps you from it. And so you don't step into those old traps. You stay here with that sense of light, without I'm not explaining it. This is the first time I've ever really tried to voice this different. So I don't know that I've quite found the words, but does that make sense to you of what I'm trying to get across?
It does, because it explains the differentiation of light and dark. See, a lot of people don't really understand by definition, with specifics, what is light, what is dark. They live in the darkness thinking it's light, meaning they live executing abusive behaviors, whether it's verbal abuse, physical abuse, all sorts of things that are outside of integrity with who they really want to be and act like. And then they don't realize that is not the light.
Mhm.
That's not normal, right?
They
That's
use
not
darkness to get light and then wonder, why aren't I happy? Well, I've manipulated,
that
destroyed everybody to get the trappings of society. I'm going,
exactly.
no, the answer's in the opposite. Learn how to conquer your darkness and your pain. And when you can bring light to that, then there's light everywhere. Again, it's like I talk about, this book is all about paradoxes, that the answer's in the opposite, literally, of almost everything we've been taught. And so you just paradox everything. And so we're taught a model that, to me, guarantees self-destruction and darkness, because it avoids the darkness. Well, I'm going, no, 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 no. If you want light, you got to go to the dark first. And you
Yeah.
got to conquer that. And the self-destruction that we all employ in that darkness. And when you can do that, then light transcends all of it. It's encapsulated. So when you're in the dark, all you see is light. And it's not false positivity coming over top, suppression, or anything. It's the ability, like you said earlier, to be as an animal experiencing the environment. And it's just bears chasing me. Okay. It's just part of the journey. Well, I got away from him, now I can forage. Like, but look where it got me. Wow, what a beautiful field. Thank God he chased me. Look where I am now. You know, but we don't teach that. We teach the avoidance of that. And to me, all it creates is more darkness. So,
Yeah, that perspective that's more whole,
yeah.
able to zoom out, zoom in, see the forest for the trees, go, okay, yes, this could be labeled as bad, or this could be labeled as necessary.
Or opportunity.
Or opportunity, exactly.
That's, to me, darkness is opportunity. The problem is the possibility, always. Always. It's never a problem. It's just a possibility. But you have to know the process. Well, I haven't seen somebody really lay out. I've seen people talk about how they woke up one day after a terrible event. You know, Byron Katie, Eckhart Tolle, Tony Robbins, they're all great teachers, learned tremendous from them, but they just told about how they woke up. They didn't teach the process of, here's how I dealt with the darkness and woke up this way. I haven't seen anyone do that. Well, that and doesn't mean there isn't anyone out there. I just probably haven't come across it. But that's what I went to do, and that's where I'm like, you know, and then I look at other people's stuff and I'm like, no one's teaching that. Well, that's where the answer is. Don't just tell me you woke up this way. How did you wake up? It's the how that matters. And that's what I get so excited about, is how, not just why and what,